Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We are with Astrology Victoria. My name is Dulcie, and I'm here with my co-host,
Tatiana, as usual, to bring you some astro weather for the third week of March this time around. And it is this third week of March is not quite the most comfortable week. So, lots of intentional choice making so we can move through March in the best way possible. This month in general has a bunch of beautiful things and at the same time a lot of more complicated stuff. So Dulcie, let's dive right in.
All right, let's go to our presentation here. Okay, so the third week of March starts Monday, March 14th and goes until Sunday, March 20th. And we're just going to start out with the Sun conjunct Neptune. So that is carrying over from last week. It started on March 10th and goes until the 16th, which is last Thursday to this Wednesday. So Sun conjunct Neptune is here. And a few things that we said about this last time was things like increased intuition and sensitivity and compassion for others, wanting to help others, and potentially overextending ourselves with the lack of boundaries or not being aware of boundaries. So just being cautious of what your own needs are in a given situation and just make sure that you're able to meet those as well, and then being able to give to others. What would you like to add to that, Tatiana?
Well, if you haven't seen our report for last week, it would be good to see it because that way you have a carry on through energy, because it's not like on this day, on that day, the energies are blending. And the Jupiter conjunction with the Sun also still carries, the Sun conjuncted the Jupiter, it conjuncted Neptune, and it's like it's this carryover theme of it's almost like a redemption energy, like it's like it's like suddenly like the veil is lifting and it's finally some sense of like unity and connection and like a breath of expansive dissolution into wonderland. And with this, and also Jupiter still being in the mix, comes again the overextended, messianic archetype, where it's like, I found my all and be all purpose, and now I'm going to be in this world doing this. I got it, which is in a one sense is beautiful because it does connect us to something, to a purpose. The Sun is like also represent the solar energy is who we are. And if you are a Pisces in those degrees, or a Virgo like me having an exact opposition, or anything having like that energy in the mutable cross, so Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius could potentially have such a desire, like such an expansive desire to connect to everything that at certain levels you could be duped. You could be also, like thinking that's it, I've got everything, and then after the transit you might feel disillusioned because maybe you were not you didn't have your feet really anchored on the ground with other things that need to be present. So it's very important, especially if you're in that mutable cross, to stay humble, to stay present, to see if your dreams are actually coming true, which is very possible with this transit. Dreams that you've had for long time, for like all your life, that thing that you always wanted to do could potentially become real with these transits, where the Sun, Neptune, Jupiter, it's just almost like bringing what your soul's desire has always been into form. And it's kind of like that's it. I got the idea. And now it's coming down. So with this, there's the requirement is to be extremely grounded and extremely practical and not go into potential inflational delusions. That's the only little thing. On the positive side, if you're on the Cancer side or the Scorpio side, these energies could really be like feeling like your heart is full of compassion, like what Dulcie said. And there's such a it's a very beautiful transit in general, depending again on your specific chart and how this could be impacting you. I would say it's almost like the divine is just shining its light. When the sun crosses Neptune, it opens the door to the realms of the divine, basically. And suddenly you can go, oh my God. So I am actually part of this flower and I love it. And then these floods of divinity can come to you. And noting that this is going to trine the South Node, and we mentioned that in our previous video, there could be like the floodgates of memory coming back, Akashic memories of gifts, or even like soul memories could just come back and you just don't know. It just comes back. And then there's this, and then because it's sextiling the North Node in Taurus, so the trine brings this like gifts, almost like, hey, remember you had these gifts? And now you can anchor them in the world, like this. So if you're really in tune with yourself, really listening to yourself, this could be a very powerful time for you to actualize your dreams and bring them into reality. So yeah, good times.
Yeah, that's a great aspect. Especially all in Pisces with Jupiter there. It's just very watery, and if you're somebody who is comfortable going with the flow, it will be a good period for that kind of thing. All right, so next we have the Sun sextile Pluto, and that is from March 16th to the 21st, which is Wednesday to next Monday. So here we have the Sun in Pisces, and it's sextiling Pluto in Capricorn. And Sun-Pluto transits can be interesting. You're definitely digging through the gunk and sorting through things that might be a little bit uncomfortable to sort through. This is just a sextile, so it's a bit more of a minor aspect, and it might not be as intense as Pluto can get. And sextiles in Hellenistic astrology, as I learned from my teacher Achyuta Bhavadas, that they are of the nature of Venus. So it's a harmony inducing aspect. It's a pleasant aspect. So even when it includes Pluto, of course, it can include Plutonic types of themes of, the underworld and power and sometimes manipulation, things like that. But the sextile helps it to be a more useful energy. So with the Sun sextile Pluto, we'll be a bit more able to put our energy to good use. We'll have the energy to be doing our spring cleaning. Like, we have a lot of things to do around the house, and this is a great time to just power through and get to it. We'll be more reflective on our subconscious and things that are, how we are talking to ourselves, our self-talk. We'll be able to see that a bit more clearly and to make changes as we need. It's a good time to kind of reflect on who you are as a person, and what are your morals, and what lines will you not cross in order to get what you want? And, what these are kinds of topics that might come up during this time. Things about morals and achievement and how far you'll go to achieve something. What lines will you not cross for that? Yeah. What would you like to say, Tatiana, about that?
Well, anything Sun, Pluto speaks of also the nature of the ego and the ego attachments in general. So when we're able to see with Pluto wanting us to evolve past, and having Neptune Sun conjunct at the same time, means that this is even though the conjunction with Neptune has already passed, it's still kind of active, because there is almost a desire to dissolve the ego. When the sun goes in with Neptune, it's like your ego and your selfish desires kind of begin to dissolve. And with Pluto there, with this sextile, it's almost saying, look, can you just let so and so go? Just let it go. Let it be. It's not a square, it's not a conjunction, it's not an opposition. So it might come as a push that when we self-reflect into the more shadow side of our attachments, and particularly, again, look at the Capricorn side of your chart. Where is that house? And what planets you have around the degrees of Pluto, because these are the things that the sun is wanting to also highlight and say, look, you see these attachments around power, and wherever you have those attachments in your Capricorn house, it's just saying, you know what, time to choo. And it's a good time for transformation, because then this gives a new pair of wings to your ever evolving butterfly, which is the archetype of Pluto. It kills something, removes it, composts it, and gives it something new afterwards from that. So this is a constant renewal, I would say, with the sun, renewal of your ego desires and your ego attachments. And ego is not a bad thing, ego is not how we sometimes think, oh, the ego is this thing that is selfish. It can. The ego for me is just that natural will drive, like it's like it's the natural thing that makes us, we wouldn't move in the world without the ego. It's tied to a certain desire to exist and create. Especially with the sun, there's creativity. So if I'm here to do nothing and there's no purpose, then why would I do anything? I would be dead. So ego is sometimes linked to that. That's why the sun is so much linked to purpose. Like wherever you have your sun is where your purpose is. It's like, yeah, because if I feel I have a purpose, then that makes me wake up in the morning. And once we detach from outdated ego needs or purposes, we allow for the next level of evolution or of our identity. So maybe your identity is having a little overhaul at this time. And again, it depends if this particular transit is affecting you more directly. And I keep saying that the mutable cross, if you are Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, or Sagittarius, you will have a little bit of this. And of course, anybody with the cardinal cross will have that Pluto very active. So anybody with planets at the degree of the 20th degree of the cardinal signs, so Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, or Libra, might be going through some major Plutonic, please let this go from your life kind of thing. And so this is again helpful transits, with the sextile. Yeah, so just let it go, let it go. You know that? Good song.
Such wisdom. All right, so our next transit, we have Mercury sextile Uranus. And that is from March 16th to the 18th, using our 3-degree orb. It's just a short little transit here. But anytime Mercury and Uranus get together, what was it? I was listening to Achyuta Bharadas's Grabbed series, where he reads people's stories of different transits. And so Mercury Uranus is often like things like, zaps of lightning or sudden, electrical issues or things like that. And one of the stories was a tree fell onto a bunch of wires, like the wires outside, and the tree was very dangerous. So if you were to touch the tree, you would get electrocuted. So, and this was during a Mercury Uranus transit. So it's a sextile again, so it's potentially less deadly or intense. But I see this more as like a mental stimulation kind of time period where your ideas are kind of popping up quickly, and you have a lot of things on your mind. You want to talk to people about different topics. Your ability to solve problems is a little bit more heightened. You're interested in learning new things. But there's also a potential with Uranus, as always, for disruptions and things. So disruptions in your plans, in your technology, in your appointments and things like that.
And also because Mercury is in Pisces and we have the Pisces stellium very active, the ideas that are coming could literally come from the beyond. Like something that doesn't even exist yet on Earth suddenly slips your mind and you're like, oh, those little eureka things. And because it's a sextile, it's like you need to act on these ideas because they could be like erratic. You're like doing something, doing your dishes, and suddenly like, oh my gosh, you find a solution to whatever, something major that is just beyond your little self, some kind of solution for the world or whatever. And you're like, oh, and then you just let it go. Or you go like, wait a minute, why am I having this idea? This could be something. And then you act on it. Great thing for channeling. Like again, channeling meaning getting your mind attuned to the senses that are not your five senses. So I'm talking intuition, sixth sense, paranormal activity, those things that you just really can't explain, because Uranus, being the higher octave of Mercury, in contact with Mercury, is almost bringing information from beyond. And this could be as crazy as, and then you might believe or not believe in like extraterrestrial contact, from other dimensions, and you're like suddenly have this ringing in the ears or some things, and you're like, oh, what is this? Is this, that? And then you get these ideas, thoughts. So this is a very, archetypally, like Dulcie said, the mind could be very stimulated, like, oh. So it's a good time. So we said in the previous video, have a dream journal through the transit of Mercury in Pisces. Have a dream journal, because from those dreams that you write down, or you do automatic writing, there could be genius ideas. Anytime we talk about Mercury, Uranus, we talk about genius, because the actual like lower mind that organizes reality gets hit by the things that, are beyond our comprehension. So, and if you have this natally, I have a natal sextile to Uranus. That's why I'm so brilliant. No, I'm kidding. Is that sometimes, yes, you do get hits of inspiration that you literally don't know where they come from, because they don't really exist. And I can attest to that. Sometimes I have ideas and I look them up online, like if it's anywhere, and it's like, no one has yet thought of this, and I don't necessarily act on them because a lot of them is not like something I'm personally interested in, but I have these ideas, and then I tell them to people, and some people are like, oh my God, things like that could happen whenever there's contact of Mercury and Uranus, especially in a positive transit. So that's that. If you have ideas, write them down. You never know, they could become the next solution for world hunger.
Yeah, the inventiveness aspect to it, having ideas that are suddenly appearing and new and not thought of before is definitely.
That doesn't mean they're always received. Trust me on that one. They're futuristic in nature, so sometimes people are not ready for them. I do that as well.
Okay, so let's move on to our full moon in Virgo. Okay, so where's Virgo? Here we are. Okay, so we had 2 weeks prior, we had a new moon in the sign of Pisces. And this is, so whatever was kind of forming in your life, in your consciousness, in your world, it's now blossoming and becoming much more concrete of a thing. It's now not in the beginning stages. It has become full, just like the moon. So Virgo is a sign where we put our knowledge to good use. We want to use our practical skills for solving problems and identifying those problems and solving them and making them easier for people. And it's also a sign where we can attend to our physical health and the health of others and other creatures, and the desire for putting order to things, taking chaos and making it organized. So as our resident Virgo, what would you like to say about this full moon?
Well, let's just say this is the themes blossoming from the Pisces new moon, getting more concrete. The Virgo moon, usually it's where we, it's usually a time where I feel like cleaning my house, like really in depth. I don't know if that makes some sense, but that can mean wherever you have Virgo in your chart, that area of life is also being highlighted as the area where, the initial seed from the Pisces being the opposite, it's now like being asked to actualize that seed. So if you had, I don't know, for instance, the Pisces new moon, it's like in my case, it's I have a Pisces in my 4th house. So everything that's with respect to my home and the ideas about, how I'm being in the home and the dreams or my dream home. And then as the moon actualizes, it asks you, okay, go now to the Virgo, like, well, how are you going to, or how are these desires, or how you have done this, and this reflects in the world outside. Now it's like, how are those things that you planted reflected in the world outside? Things like that. So this full moon also has in its own like chart, we have that little malefic enclosure of Venus. And if you, I recommend you watch Achuta Baba's video on the malefic enclosure, meaning Venus is trapped between Mars and Saturn. So things might not necessarily, as much as we have this amazing spiritual energy from the Pisces stellium, Venus, which usually is the grace factor, might not have a lot of power at this moment to negotiate, to be, it doesn't have much of an impact. It's really having a hard time, meaning anything relational would require a lot of responsibility. And this is what Saturn always brings to the mix. It's not like just bad luck with money or people or relationships. It's just that we're asked to be very responsible at this time with our choices. So yes, opening up to spirit and the beyond means that we at the same time are trying to achieve our goals and desires, which is that Venus Mars is like Venus attracts, Mars goes and gets. We are creating new structures for a life that might have more freedom in it, with this whole Aquarium theme, and that might also be better for the collective. But again, Saturn is asking a lot of it's putting a lot of pressure on having those choices be, the right choices, if right is an actual word, or basically any structure you put in right now will define your levels of relationship, of freedom, of social interaction. So it's a time of a lot of change and evolution in the planet. We have this amazing Pisces and amazing Aquarius energy all together. My thought is that there is such a push from the divine, literally, and I'm going to use the word, for us to move into a better world, into a world that has more love in it, more compassion and better systems. And it's a tug of war, literally, because there is like a still with Pluto in those last degrees of Capricorn. It's like, there's still it's not finished, the old world versus the new world. We're not yet birthed, where I think the head is now out, baby's almost out, but it's been this birthing process into a new way of existing. It doesn't go without its level of pain, of suffering, and we are seeing this all over the planet. So my thought is like, with these new Piscean energies, it's like there's an element of trust to be had. And in this full moon, if you embrace the whole energetic imprint of these times, which is that Aquarian / Piscean, and allow whatever comes from yourself, your intuition, your higher self, to move through into practical, pragmatic, realistic things, then we're going to be golden, and again, taking care of your health, physical health, mental health, all of these things are important, especially, because with the Pisces stellium, the desire to escape reality can also be a thing. It's like, reality is harsh. No, here we're being asked to create reality. You see the difference? I don't know if you get it, what I'm saying, Dulcie. With this energy, I sense your reality is in your hands. What are you going to do with it? And we'll give you information, input, and insight. Go. And it's up to us to create whatever reality we're going to create. With Aquarius, this age of Aquarius coming in, it could go either way, into the shadow or the light, or both. So it's up to us. This is our responsibility. And with Saturn in Aquarius, our social responsibility, our structures. Yeah, that's that.
Okay, and also this full moon is occurring for us on the West Coast late at night on the March 17th. And for those more on the East Coast, it'll be early morning on the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on. We have of course, our image of Virgo designed by Tatiana here. Did you want to say anything about this image?
Well, this is again basically what you said. We take the Piscean, a little bit realm of everything, those colors in, that are all disorganized kind of, and then purify them, because Virgo is about purification and organization and understanding of how something can be systematized in its most efficient form. And Virgo is linked to craftsmanship, to the daily grind. You do something. It's literally landing what it's in the Piscean realm into practicality. It's the most practical sign. So that's the Virgo. And if you have not seen our Virgo video, we recommend you see it in our section of astro teachings.
Sounds good. Okay, just gonna, here we go. Okay, so next we have Mercury conjunct Jupiter, again in Pisces. So this is from March 19th to the 22nd. And that is Saturday to next Tuesday. Oops. There we go. I'll just pause my, or stop share. Here we go.
So before we continue with this, the we is going to become Dulcie, just because I have something that I need to do right now as we're recording this video. And you know, sometimes that's what happens when you're in Piscean flow. Just need to go with the flow, and at this moment I need to go. So I will leave you with Dulcie to finish this amazing presentation, and I'll see you next week for the 4th week of March. So everybody, I'm signing off. Dulcie, Mercury, Jupiter.
All right. Thanks, Tatiana. See you next week. All right. Let's go back to our presentation here. Okay. So next we have Mercury conjunct Jupiter. And I'll just circle those here. Okay. So that is from March 19th to the 22nd. Which is this Saturday to next Tuesday. So Mercury conjunct Jupiter. I did briefly touch on this last week, but this is the sign of Mercury, the planet of Mercury is all about organizing information, examining the details, taking things apart, putting things back together. Whereas Jupiter is a more broad, has a more broad perspective, is able to see things as a whole. So when these two planets get together, they're combining those two skills. So as I touched on last time, because I'm often writing papers, and sometimes it can be grueling and sometimes the words can just flow right out. This transit, this conjunction can be helpful for writing papers. We are able to see the broad perspective. We're able to combine all of the knowledge we've acquired and to sort it out and put it out into organized paragraphs. As well, we'll be able to have a better understanding of other people's viewpoints. We'll be more open to those and able to take that information and absorb it and decipher what we believe is accurate and what is not accurate, what we agree with, what we don't. Can be good for planning social events as well. And there might be some opportunities that are opening up, as well as positive social interactions. It's a great time for having philosophical discussions with people. Just beware of maybe lecturing people. Jupiter can kind of give you that high horse feeling. So beware of big-headedness and feeling like your ideas are the correct ones, and that no other ideas are acceptable. Because of Jupiter's broad perspective, there is a chance of overlooking details sometimes. So yeah, just pay attention to that. Mercury will be helpful in that. So details will be a bit more obvious, but with Jupiter and Neptune beside Mercury, there is a chance of kind of like, I don't know, just maybe feeling too overwhelmed with the knowledge that you're taking in. So yeah, I think that's all I want to say about that conjunction. Let's move on. I know that Tatiana wanted to discuss as well. I don't have a slide for it, but she wanted to talk about Saturn square the nodes. Yeah, here. So I have mostly read from Demetra George about the luminaries squaring the nodes, so being at the bendings, where it's kind of like a crossroads. It's in between point between the eclipses. And eclipses are times where there's, things start moving and changing, and this is just another axis. So being at the halfway point between the nodes is called being at the bendings. I don't know too much about other planets being at the bendings, but with Saturn, we can kind of take Saturn's significations of limitations and responsibility and hard work, things like that, and recognize that Saturn is at that crossroads. It's not quite it's left Scorpio and it's not quite at Taurus yet. It's at the halfway point. And so there are still some Saturnian decisions that need to be made, that need to be incorporated. And perhaps we're feeling a little bit stuck or overwhelmed with work, or we're not quite organized and diligent about getting our work done. So this is a moment for Saturnian themes to become more prominent, and for us to contemplate them a little bit more and integrate them and decide where we want to go from there. At the Spencer's podcast, he talked about the song "Should I Stay or Should I Go Now?" for a planet being at the bending. So it's got that kind of that theme of I'm not quite where I came from, and I'm not quite where I'm going yet. All right. So now for our last slide here. Of course, we've been talking about the Venus-Mars conjunction quite a bit, and that ends on March 21st, which goes until next Monday. And then we have Venus square Uranus from March 16th to the 22nd, which is this Wednesday to next Tuesday. And we have Mars square Uranus from March 19th to the 26th, which is this Saturday to next Saturday. But essentially, Mars and Venus and Mars are traveling together. So we're going to essentially group Venus and Mars together in this square with Uranus. All right, so if we're just looking at Venusian qualities squaring Uranus, this is relationship topics, this is topics of beauty, and art, and things that are pleasant and that feel good. If we're talking about Mars, we're looking at more of our ability to be to the point, aggressive, and getting what we want done. And so if we use Venus square Uranus, if we look at Venus square Uranus, there could be some conflict or disagreement in a relationship. Actually, this includes Mars as well. Mars is all about conflict and disagreement. So Venus, Mars square Uranus, there could be this conflict or discord in a relationship, could be a romantic relationship, a friendship, that might lead to new relationship dynamics, or an update to the social contract. That's the Uranian aspect of changing things, turning things upside down, or having some sort of sudden shift. There could be exploration within relationships, or exploring new relationships and trying out new things that are, you haven't done before. Being open to people who are different from yourself. It's a good opportunity to practice your relational skills. So because there could be some tension or discord or upset. It's a good time to, I have always noticed that when I'm in a relationship, my own flaws are suddenly out there and I'm aware of them. When I'm single, I'm not aware of them as much. But of course, when you relate to someone and you interact with someone, and those flaws and those sensitivities come out. So it's a great time to practice working on those sensitivities and working through them, and talking through them, and being open and honest with your partner or with your friend, practicing patience and, emotion management skills. With the Mars Uranus, I watched a documentary recently that was about Marc-Andre Leclerc, and it's up on Netflix. If you've seen it, you know who I'm talking about. But in his chart, he has Mars opposite Uranus, and I've lost my mouse. I really don't like Zoom for that. Okay. Yes, here it is. Okay, so he has Mars opposite Uranus in his chart. And here we're talking about Mars square Uranus. It's similar. But if we're adding in Venus, it also works in this as well. So Marc-Andre Leclerc is, this documentary is all about, there we go, a climber who climbs mountains. He's an alpinist. So the documentary is called The Alpinist. And he climbs mountains without any safety net, without the rope holding him to the mountain. He just goes, and he doesn't plan out the route. He doesn't examine the mountain beforehand. He just goes and climbs the mountain. And he's done unbelievable mountains that are, the most challenging. I can't remember what they're called right now, but so that with the Mars Uranus qualities, that's kind of the desire for ultimate freedom, or being uninterested in being limited, having that complete free spirit, and daring to do what you love. His mom at a young age recognized that he was not at his best in a regular school environment. So she took him out of school, and she homeschooled him and brought him out into the wilderness. And that's where he was able to be his most true self. And so he grew up to be an alpinist, and was able to just do what he loved. And even though it was risky, I think that's part of why it's so appealing to Mars Uranus people. Can be a frustration and an inability to sit still, or accidents leading to injury. Of course, there's always that chance with this kind of lifestyle. And with Venus, as we were saying before, Venus, Mars, square Uranus, adding Venus in there, he was known for being incredibly graceful when he was climbing. It was an art. So he would kind of slowly and calmly make his way up the mountain. That was the time when he was able to have his mind focused and to be calm. In everyday life, it was harder for him to calm down his mind. So what I can say about this is, have that daring to do what you love kind of instinct, and don't allow your fears and whatever else is out there that is holding you back to stop you from doing what you love. Marc-Andre Leclerc was not interested in being famous for what he was doing. He just wanted to climb the mountains, and that's what he was passionate about. And so that's what he did. So I highly recommend the documentary. It was very inspiring, and I definitely had a few tears. So yeah, I don't know what else I don't have anything else to say, I think, about this aspect. And that's it for the third week of March. So yeah, if you have any comments or questions, definitely write those in the comments below. And we'll be back with you next week to discuss the fourth week of March. Feel free to join us on Facebook, on Meetup, Instagram. We are Astrology Victoria, obviously, and we host online astro chats where we just casually discuss an aspect or a theme, and obviously based on astrology. And we host professional astrologers about once a month to give a presentation on whatever they find interesting. So yeah, feel free to join us there and we'll keep you updated. All right, thanks guys, have a great week. Bye.